I assure you there's not a fire happening over there.
You have a fire? What?
I don't, but I haven't changed the frame rate on my camera, so it's picking up a flicker on one of the lights, and it looks like I've got a lovely campfire in my office. But I can assure you that I don't.
Well, yeah, you need the fire because you're a thermal wimp.
I am a thermal wimp. massive thermal wimp.
After all these years knowing you, I didn't know you were a thermal wimp, man.
Yeah.
Were we not like... Where was the place where it was the coldest where we were together? Was it not Kiev?
Very possible.
Remember?
Or on the in Tokyo.
Oh.
On top of the...
Mori.
Yeah. That was cold.
That was cold because of the wind. Yeah. The wind chill was...
But yeah, generally, thermal wimp.
Well, you have those, as you explained in your attaché episode, you have those patches of heat.
Oh, glorious things. Thank you, Joseph Tame.
From Joseph. For our dear friend Joseph. Yeah, these are amazing. But you said in that episode that you can find them here?
Somebody commented that they're called charcoal heat packs, and I'm sure that they are, I don't know, and that you can buy them in outdoor stores.
Oh.
But
okay.
In Japan, they are ubiquitous. Every convenience store.
Yeah, that's why, because I was using them myself when I visited Hokkaido and stuff. I was using them, and then I completely forgot about them when I left, assuming that this was something, so typical, but here, no way in Europe or whatever.
I hoarded them. I have a huge pack of them. And
I'll bring you some next time. I didn't know you were into those. And I'm always trying to figure out what I can bring back for you from Japan. I thought it would be, remember I would send you pictures of at Haneda the miniature planes, maybe for your kids. For your kids, of course.
Yeah. I can see whatever on my shoulder there.
Let me play the sound here.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
There you go. They're counting on us. How cool were those 2 interviews, man?
Oh, it was. I'm not saying I'm sick of you, Paul, but it was such a nice change of pace. It was such interesting perspectives and stories and people. It was a real treat to have those 2 chaps on board.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you haven't listened to them, because especially Ed's one was released during the holidays, like literally on the 31st of December, please do, because really, I mean, the very different one is really the history of the Concorde and all the trips he's done, and the other is more like industry focused with Hakan. But they were both, I mean, I loved it. We'll do more. I mean, we say that and then we don't, but we did 2 in a row.
2 in a row, and I learned a whole heap from both conversations.
Yeah. Same.
And they're little nuggets and things that I keep regurgitating to people that, and basically anybody that will listen. Bus drivers, baristas. Did you know?
You're talking by yourself.
Yeah, talking myself on the bus.
In the Starbucks, and somebody would listen at some point.
Yeah, that's
Look
fine.
at this old guy rambling over there.
I think you just defined the podcast. You're just talking to yourself, and somebody will listen at some point.
So we'll go to many places today. I need to play the music. I always forget to play the music again. That's for you, as always. So I don't know where we're going today with the episode, because you've been traveling quite a bit. I have a bit less so, but we'll cover everything. So we'll start with that silly airport game that everybody has been doing in the past 2 months, I think. I've seen it like floating around so many times. I think the first time I saw it was from Thrifty Traveler at MSP. He posted that, and then a lot of our listeners whom I follow through the Layovers account on Twitter. Twitter keeps breaking down, by the way. The airport game. So let's do it, because everybody asked us what is our version of the airport game. We never did it on Twitter, so we'll do it live. Airport you dislike.
Airport I dislike. I had to pull my notes up. I was sat on the sofa a couple of days ago, really concentrating, and then it's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Paul gave me homework. I need to do this." I think you know which airport I dislike. I talk about it all the time. Madrid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You sent me that article, and I think it was in one of the British broadsheets lately, and I felt so validated by it.
Oh my God. Yeah, guys, it's behind a paywall because of the Financial Times. I don't have the transcript, maybe for next time. It's amazing. It's a full-on rambling for like 2 pages about why Barajas is a disaster. I mean, clearly T4S. You can feel that the journalist led at a T4S and got lost in the meanders of the multiple tunnels under the runway for like 5,000 kilometers to reach the actual airport T4. But yeah,
It's a strange place because it should work. And I think maybe it's just that terminal that I don't like, because being able to jump on the metro and be in town, it's that part's great. But because of that Narnia-esque experience, it doesn't get any points from me. So yes, it's an airport I dislike.
Yeah. For me, you guessed it, it's not very difficult. Well, Sam ID with that tunnel that goes, and it just doesn't work. I know I keep talking about it. I think I've said enough, and I'm sure there must be. Look, guys, if there's anyone in the audience who loves Frankfurt Airport, please reach. Alex is not convinced. Yeah, I used to say in the same sentence, I would used to often mention Charles de Gaulle, but as we'll go on later, I mean, maybe you had a different experience. My experience with Charles de Gaulle, like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, we're recording today, the Thursday, the 16th of February. By the way, guys, you might not go out today because I have a lot of work today and tomorrow. So before Monday, we'll go out. I used to put it not at the same level of bad airport as Frankfurt, but actually, when it works, it works.
Yeah.
Whereas I've never seen really Frankfurt work. Only once, maybe, in all my life.
Yeah. I mean, you have a much more intimate relationship with that airport than I do, but yeah.
Yeah, but I won't look. Here's the letter from Lufthansa telling me that.
You have to tell this story because it's hilarious.
Yeah, but guys, we said that we're losing our status, and I received a letter from Lufthansa that my status with them, after years and years and years of being gold, so senator on Lufthansa, miles and more, I'm downgraded because I haven't flown them since basically 2019, right? So I'm downgraded to frequent traveler, so they don't, they have like frequent traveler with as a basis card, then they have gold, and then they have HON, which is impossible to get level. Anyway, I knew that, so that's fine, right? But the way they put it, where's the sentence? Due to the pandemic, travel was severely restricted for a long time. No doubt this affected your travel plans and your ability to earn enough status mile. And that's the sentence that comes now. Despite the various options available. There's like a German Schadenfreude, like, you lost, and they're kind of smiling at it. Like, I should have taken like probably 3 credit cards with them just to. I found it. I thank God I'm not crying over losing that status. But when I read that, I'm like, really? Yeah. You could have said something a bit like less rough.
It was fine until that last part.
Yes, exactly. Despite all the various options available. Well, by the way, I didn't tell you, they offer me, because that's a thing they do, I can pay for an extra year of senator. Oh. I can buy my way, and they're giving me a discount. So instead of paying 2,000 euros for another year, I could pay 1,400. But look, I'm not going to travel to justify 1,400 plus. Well, I'm going to get access to some stuff, but no. So sorry, Lufthansa, I'm not going to. I actually met the head of loyalty. I should write to him, actually. So the airport game continuing. Airport you think is overrated?
Dallas-Fort Worth. I think I hear so much about that flippin' airport all the time. Fortress American and blah 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 blah, and I just think it's not nearly as it's parts of it are horrible, and it's massive and inconvenient, and I don't like it at all, and I think it's not nearly as good as its stature represents.
I get it. I was about to say, is it highly rated? Because to be overrated, you have to But yeah, maybe you're right.
I think the way that the way that American Airlines loyalists speak about that airport, is like reverential, and I just don't buy it. I think what's interesting is I thought long and hard about this one because did I want to be harsh and say is Changi overrated? Is Dubai overrated? And I just thought no, they're just good.
I thought the same. It was hard for me because Changi, because of the carpet, but other than that, and the security at the gate. But I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's a great airport. Yeah. Same with which one you said, Dubai? Yeah, Dubai is maybe bursting at the seams, but it's still they're making a lot of effort. Yeah. The terminal, the sea gates have improved a lot. Some stuff. I mean, I get it. For me, it would probably be Incheon. Slightly, as in, it's still very, 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 very good. But usually, it's said in the same breath as Singapore, Hong Kong, Incheon. People always rank these three at the same level, and I find that meaning don't. It's not Beirut, guys, right? It's still Incheon, it's still great. However, no disrespect to Beirut, I love that airport, but as you know, guys, I've been too nice about it. But it's I find it slightly below, like the layout, the way it's, especially I've almost never been to I think Terminal 2, but the main one when Korean and Asiana fly from. It's very good, but it's not as good as people seem to think. And I know that as soon as I say that, and we usually often rank very high in Korea, I'm gonna get like because probably they love their airport, but I think it's slightly overrated.
Maybe. I've only been there once, and I don't really remember. Was I arriving or I think I was transiting. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good point though. I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because I chose one that is already very, very, very good. Then airport you like. So there's two. There's airport you love and airport you like. So let's start with airport you like.
So this got downgraded from love to like, and it's London City.
Huh.
And
of the recent.
Yeah, I've always been such a huge fan of that airport, and I still am a very big fan of that airport. But ever since they put up that monstrosity that blocks the views, it's gone from love to like. It's very disappointing. Yeah. But to be honest, I mean, it is such a great little airport. As long as they are planning on expanding it, and if they can continue to keep that efficiency and scale, then it's a good little airport.
Yeah, no, you're right. I will say, in that category, I could say many, because, it's like there's many. I would say, yeah, for the sake of it, maybe Narita. I know that some people don't, because Haneda is closer, la 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 la. I think it's a potent airport. It's not the best for many reasons, and I'm not talking about the distance because I think it's okay. But yeah, I like it. I maybe because I just been there, like you at LCY. You've been so many times, and so you feel at home.
Yeah.
So you may be not impressed anymore. So I was never really impressed by Narita anyway. That's not the point. But yeah, so I would say that. Airport you love. So I kind of think I know the answer, but let's see.
Oh, do you? Okay, I don't think so I might throw you a curveball here then.
Oh, you will probably then.
The airport I love is Long Beach.
Ha! Never been.
Why? Because it's a beautiful old Art Deco terminal that they have done a fantastic job of maintaining the soul of. You generally, but not exclusively, walk across the tarmac to your plane, which I love as well. And they have a restaurant on the upper level of the terminal, which overlooks the entire ramp, and also they have an outdoor viewing area. Not to mention its kind of salubrious surroundings as well. So I feel happy every time I'm at that airport. There are a number of airports that could have fit into that category, but that one is the one that was I feel the most just relaxed and happy to be there. And
that's funny. I was obviously expecting that you would say Hong Kong.
Well,
out of nostalgia, maybe, but
maybe I have more curveballs coming for you then. I'm very interested to hear your answer to this question.
Well, for me, I've said it many, many times, and I think I will not change my answer. Zurich, because I think it's
this
really,
is such a good airport.
yeah, it's really, really well done. It's easy to transfer at. It's the E gates in particular. I love them. The international gates, whatever you want to call them, gates E. Which is a separate building. You have to go under the tarmac to join it. I just love the architecture. It's minimalist. It suits me. It's just, and it's not, guys. It's not because it's in Switzerland. Because other airports that are very good, like Munich is in Germany, whatever, the Doha, whatever. But I really love Zurich because it's right size. Even though I love these, almost cruise ship type airports that are so big that you get lost in them. Having a more human-sized airport is also nice sometimes. So yeah,
And it works.
yeah, it works exactly. I've never seen it fail. Probably it is. Again, we have also passports that allow us to make it work. If you have never had the experience of having maybe a passport is more difficult to transfer with, but yeah. Then airport you feel yourself in.
I'm not sure if you're going to let me get away with this answer, but I'm going to say Kai Tak.
Yeah, and of course, please, good. It's fine. I mean, yeah, you grew up there.
And that's why I feel like I knew that airport like the back of my hand. Because not only did I grow up there and was in and out all the time, my father ostensibly ran it, but also when I worked there, I had an airside pass. And so every hallway and nook and cranny and shortcut and restaurant and shop, and I knew it inside and out. I mean, it wasn't exactly a big place. It wasn't hard to do, but I think amplify that with some pretty heavy nostalgia, and I feel like it's the place that I feel most comfortable. If you weren't going to let me get away with that answer, then I was actually going to say, if I can shock you, Heathrow.
Yeah, well, because we live here, so probably we've been there so many times that,
And it feels like coming home, right? This is the gateway to actually returning home. So, but I think Kai Tak is the honest answer.
It's funny. I could have answered Heathrow as the airport I think is overrated. As in,
I think
of course, depending on the terminal, but I think I've heard also people that say, yeah, it's one of these big airports because, of course, it's the aura of, like you just said, it's the London capital city, one of the, what they call it, double alpha cities, the big ports of the world. Heathrow could be much better, but is it highly rated? I don't know, but I could have answered. I would say the airport I feel myself in, I mean, there's many, but of course, recency bias, meaning the last 10 years. So unlike you, I'm going to go for the recency bias. I will say Dubai because I've been commuting there so many times, either going there, I'm going next week, or using them for the past 15 years, almost like 14 years nonstop. So obviously I know this without having, I wish I had a pass, but without having backstage access like you do, I would have, I do it. You remember that stupid story I told you that I forgot how I exited the airport because it was, because I probably know it so well that I don't even need to think about it.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, probably I would say. There's others I could have said, of course, Geneva, my home airport, because maybe I didn't travel, surely I didn't travel as much as you as a kid, but of course that was my airport. So every time I go there, there's also this kind of home feel, the same that I would feel now in Heathrow. Of course, it has changed. There's a new sea gaze and whatever in Geneva. But yeah, for me, it would be Dubai. That's recency bias, but it would be for probably Dubai. I cannot say that yet about Doha, which I fly more out now. But an airport you need to visit. So one you haven't probably.
Well, actually, Doha is my answer. I've never been, and I've heard you kind of give its oral history over the life of this podcast as it's kind of grown and expanded and new facilities have opened, and I'm intrigued by it. I don't know when I'm going to get there.
Well, you're still on one world no matter what, so you will end up there at some point when you go to Asia. It could be it's always an option whenever you end up going back to Asia. So because the airline is also good. Yeah, it's a good airport. One I need to visit. I mean, you just said Long Beach. I could say that actually now, but I didn't think about it, obviously, because now you made me want to visit it. I love, contrary to what I just said about Zurich, so I love these, maybe because it's a bit like, big infrastructure project and whatever. So I love these big airports that I've never been to. So I will say, I'll put like 2 or 3 here. like the big ones in China, like Daxing, the new Beijing. I've been to the other one, but not so it's a PKX, I think. It looks just. I love architecture as well, so it looks just impressive. So I would love to see that. And there's another one in the Jilin province, CQG. I don't know if it's open already or if it's only being built. It also looks like Daxing. One of these almost, sorry for my Chinese friend, vanity projects. It's so beautiful how it looks. So I would love to visit these kind of airports. And because let's throw something because I've not mentioned a single American airport. I will probably want to see the new LaGuardia.
Yeah, everybody's raving about it. And people that were dunking on LaGuardia left, right, and center are eating humble. Well, I don't think they're eating humble pie. I think they're just generally relieved. But it's getting very good reviews.
Right.
And it shows that you can rehabilitate a terrible airport.
Absolutely, right? That's everybody, like you, like all the people either that I don't know that I just follow or people that I know have been telling me that it's great. And I'm like, first, it's really rare that you hear someone saying a U.S. airport is great. They'll say it's good, But so, yeah, I really want to visit that one. Yeah. Bless you. You have the cough button on, so nobody can hear you, but he's actually... And last question, which was not, I don't know the answer, we'll know at the end. Which airport should we have as a title today? I don't know. So maybe it will be JFK T8, which is one of the stories you'll tell us, because it's the new terminal that now British Airways has been moving into.
Yeah.
Or Charles de Gaulle. I think it's dated with Charles de Gaulle because we've both been recently. Which terminal have you gone by when you?
I have absolutely no idea.
Is that the round one?
T2.
Oh, 2. Yes, one of the
It was a Schengen terminal.
F.
I think it was E, and Megan came into
They're
B.
one opposite the other. Yeah, yeah. Talking about LaGuardia, actually, have you seen the story of Ed Parsons' luggage?
Amazing. Like I told him, it needs to be a Netflix series. What?
So I think, so he went to the US like you. We'll talk about your travel to the US a bit later, but he went to the US like you. I think also to DC, to Washington.
Yeah, we missed each other. No, we were there at the same time, but he was leaving as I was arriving, but we were on the same city.
Our long-time listener, Elizabeth, who's been on the show with Ed, the episode like in 2020, one of our guests, the one you were sadly not with us there, she sent me a message like, is there a secret layovers meetup in DC and I'm not aware of it? Like she was seeing, I guess, your Instagram stories there plus his. So yeah, so he was there, and then I think he went to New York like you. I think he was the routing was similar, but maybe like you said, for a few days off. But his luggage, instead of following him, arrived at LaGuardia instead of our JFK, I think. Mm-hmm. Stood at LaGuardia for a while, and then arrived in Tel Aviv.
He arrived back in London, and yeah,
but I mean, he was going to London, and the luggage went to Tel Aviv by itself.
But didn't it sit in LaGuardia for ages after he was home?
Yeah,
and they probably told him, "Yeah, we'll get it back to you," and then it's like he had an AirTag. This is how he knew all of this information, and he's posted on. You should go on Twitter and have a look if you haven't already, because I think he actually made a thread out of it, and it went as you said to Tel Aviv and just sat around in Tel Aviv, and I mean it went on and on and on.
Yeah, Tel Aviv.
Did a coffee just magically appear?
A Cafe Nero coffee just arrived. Mel just brought me one.
Man, that's dedication right there. And we have a whole kind of motif going on here.
Yeah, because of the
blue hat, blue background, brought to you by Cafe Nero.
Exactly.
Anyway,
that's the
Ed was eventually reunited with his bag, I think, a couple of days ago, weeks after he had left the U.S.
But he was like tagging the airline. Was it American? Mm-hmm. I think it was American. I mean, we've heard these stories. I think you retweeted a story about this luggage from United that ended up also with an AirTag at someone's place.
Yeah, it's an apartment complex. And you can see why airlines are like, AirTags are dangerous and illegal.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And they shouldn't be in bags. But what it's really highlighting is that nothing is as ever straightforward as it seems when it comes to luggage.
yeah, exactly. It's there was also like a story that I saw maybe 2 weeks ago about I don't follow at all, but a poker player. Apparently, he's pretty famous. I don't know that during a live stream or a telecast, whatever, of a poker game in the US, he broke character in a way because he was playing his game, and he looked and says, "Do not ever fly Lufthansa, worst airline in the world. Where is my luggage, Lufthansa?" Because I think his luggage had been separated from him for like 2 weeks, and in so random places, and they would always say, yeah, we'll follow up, and then they would never send him a text or an email. You had to call again, wait forever on the customer call line, and they either didn't care. He said, at the end, there's one person that seemed to care, but even that didn't solve it. So he went really live. Like you can see, he turns like in his head probably, where's the camera? Oh, there it is. He says like do not ever fly Lufthansa, worst airline in the world.
Hey, if you got a platform,
I find it worst airline on the planet or whatever. It's not the worst airline on the planet, no matter the letter I got, guys. But these stories are still. So, do you feel comfortable? I mean, you're not checking in usually your luggage, but would you feel comfortable checking in your luggage if you were to go maybe with your kids? You have no choice.
We actually, what? We just did check a bag on our DC New York trip.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And of course, I had an AirTag in it, and I wasn't expecting to see it. I had low expectations. But generally, as a rule, and I think you're the same, is I will do anything in my power to avoid checking a bag, not just for the lost luggage, but just for the logistical piece of it and having to wait around, and it's just one more thing you've got to do. So I really, really, really try and avoid it now more than ever.
Yeah, me too. If I can avoid it, I think I'll have to do it next week to buy, because I have to have change of clothes and whatever. And it's just that's also the downside. And you're told as well. Downside of being told is that the same luggage has to accommodate larger shoes and bigger outfits, whatever.
If you're going somewhere cold, which is what we were doing, then you're really stressing the structural integrity of a carry-on.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you fly economy, sometimes you have to be careful about them not wanting to. Oh, can we weigh that luggage? No, please do not. Like sometimes I remember back in the day, I would try to put my feet just under the side they didn't see, so I could lift it up a little bit.
That's clever. I'm going to use that. That's very clever.
Yeah, if they don't see it, it works. But yeah. By the way, Ed. Actually, at the start of this trip, he posted a nice tweet to us because he says, "Is there a layovers effect? After talking about upgrades on British Airways on my last flight, I was literally dragged out of my WTP seat and put into a club suite as soon as the doors closed. Thank you." I don't think it's us. I think it's just British Airways being nice to you. But also, Ed, didn't you tell us that you were always regularly upgraded in January every year, and that was your upgrade?
This is your annual upgrade, Greg. Ed.
But Ed, yeah, thank you. And he sent us a picture of a champagne glass in front of the window. So yeah.
Ed, I would also like to know what the resolution for your bag's sojourn was. What recompense are you due, if any? And what acknowledgement did you get from the airline or airlines involved?
Yeah, I think what I told him, I think on Twitter, he should request the air miles from the trip.
Yes. The miles with his status.
Exactly. I've done it. Look, my luggage went to LaGuardia, then it went to Tel Aviv, then it went to... of course, you have to. And of course, it flew first. The luggage flew first, right? Obviously. Concerning the second interview with Hakan, by the way, I think Gen told me they loved it, but we got a lot of super feedback. I don't have the time to, because again, there's always too many, and especially now there's a backlog of feedback since basically the November of stuff that we said in the previous episode where only the two of us up. Guys, I'm not going to have the time. But just about Hakan. Hakan told us, it's a small world, he sent us an email because one of his neighbors, she's called Kim from South Africa, and it turns out he's a long-time Layovers listener and heard Hakan's episode. And looks like he's like, you Hakan, you were on Layovers. So we're
amazing.
So shout out to Kim. Hi Kim.
Hi Kim. Thank you for listening.
That's very cool that you're listening to us. I mean, really, sometimes I'm still baffled that people actually listen to us, and down the road from you, Hakan, that you have another.
It happens more and more when it's not like we have a visual medium where people are going to recognize us, but you start talking to a fellow passenger and somehow it comes up, which is kind of fun.
Yeah,
like
and
Dan in our Voiling episode.
Yeah. She said a bunch of, that's what Hakan tells us. Kim said a bunch of very nice things about the show, and mentioned that we turned her into using travel tools like Expert Flyer. So we are useful as well.
Yeah, every now and then we let forth a nugget of truth.
Expert Flyer is still something I still use regularly.
Oh, me too. When I did the attaché little thing about how to save money booking your flights, it's one of the things I mentioned. A lot of people hadn't heard about it.
The one that of all the mentions, I mean, the rest, I mean, we probably do very similar. The one I've been using less than in the past is ITA. So you know the back end of Google Flights. It still works, but I don't do these very complicated routings anymore. So I rarely find like a better option than when we used to do, because it's just you as well, like more complicated routings. ITA was amazing.
Yeah,
but I
still
don't
for
use
the mixed class fare, there's nothing out there that is anywhere close to it. That's for me. Is it's silver bullet. It's USP, as they say.
Silver bullet, silver status as well.
Yeah.
And since Hakan, just a quick mention, because since Hakan, of course, as you know, guys, is from Turkey, quick mention of the disaster that just struck Turkey and Syria. If you have the heart, as always, please donate. We don't have any page or whatever, it's not us, but there's so many things, the Red Cross and everything, so please do something, because it's really not fun. So where we got a review on the 1st of January 2023, so happy new year for us, by PDG T2F. That was on iTunes, so Apple Podcast, 5 stars from the US. The title is Best Travel Podcast. Thank you. And description: this is easily the best travel podcast. Paul and Alex share tales of their great flying adventures around the world. Only one problem, we need more. Yeah, well.
Yeah.
We reached, I mean, it has happened in the past, but it's not every day, so I wanted to mention it reached number 1 on the charts in Japan, which is very cool. So thank you,
Hello,
Japan. I mean,
Japan
Singapore
friends.
is always very high. The UK and Australia, I think we also ranks often. And so many countries. I think the list in front of me, and I just took a screenshot the other day, I think there was like 39 countries where we were like ranking in the top 20, so it's really nice. Wow. Philip Plambeck, I think it's what's his name on Instagram? Paplambeck, he sent us a message. Yeah, he was reaching out to us back before COVID, and I think he restarted traveling, and he was catching up on the pods. He changed job. He says he changed job last year, and he's in Germany on a monthly basis, enjoying, in quotes, BA's Club Europe service. And he says that's easily beaten by Lufthansa. But schedules mean they are my first choice. And he lets us know, and he lets you know, that he actually he equipped himself with a Carl Friedrich carry-on.
Oh, good.
One of the things I think you mentioned on
they are
Attaché.
a partner of ours on Attaché.
Attaché. So there you go. So thank you. That's really, 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 really kind man to send us this message. And he sent us a picture of, it must be in a lounge where there's nuts, water, champagne, and you can see the said carry-on there. Avi Alex, Alexandra on Instagram, loved your Norse story.
Oh, good.
She flew with them. She said she flew with them from LAX to Berlin in premium, and it was just fabulous. She said she originally had a ticket with Swiss from LAX, but because she had booked with United, there was no upgrade options on Swiss.com because it was handled externally, which that kind of thing always also bugs me.
Me too.
And the thought of being cramped for 13 hours in economy, and then she checked like, hey, Norse, and it was actually, I think, what did she say? And I didn't write it down. I think she said the price. It was really cheap, so nice. You know.
Greg flew them back from New York when we were all there.
Yeah.
And he did the upgrade to premium and was very, very positive about it too, transatlantic. And so I think that I hope they don't do what Norwegian did and expand too quickly. Maybe, I mean, that's just me looking at it from an outsider's ignorant perspective, but I like them and I want them to succeed. So
yeah, me too. I mean, I can't say I like them, but I want them to succeed because we need competition, and I'm looking forward to fly them eventually, probably to the US. Actually, it could be because the prices are back to being horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean. A bipolar bear, Glebaz on Twitter said, my first time listening to you in the air en route to Cancun. That was at the end of December for holidays, I guess. So I hope you enjoy that. More Cancun than our show. Thank you very much. Anyway, lots of feedback. Thank you, all of you guys.
Really kind, guys.
I'm sorry if we don't mention you. It's just that otherwise I can look. We're already almost 40 minutes into the show now, and I haven't really started the show itself. Before we start our travel, I know I keep pushing it back, but one thing that we all talked about, of course, is the last 747 was delivered. During that delivery flight from Everett to Cincinnati, I think it was an Atlas Air, if I'm not mistaken, they did that logo of the 747 with the crown on it. It was absolutely wonderful what they did. It really well done, by the way. Like the lines are perfect. So that was beautiful. Maybe just a few words. It's not an obituary. It's not dead yet, right? I mean, the lines are closed, but what does it represent to you, or whatever you want to share, basically?
I was a little taken aback at how legitimately emotional I was at it. And I posted something on Instagram after I'd reflected on it a little bit, that it was such a presence in my life and my kind of developing addiction to aviation. It was always there. It was the reliable machine that took me from home to new experiences and back again. It was always there. It was a comforting sight. It was ubiquitous. And again, I am talking about it like it's dead, but it's not. But it was, you could be anywhere in the world and they'd be there, and they would work, and they would be comfortable and reliable and reassuring. And I think that, plus seeing them scream overhead at Kai Tak above my school, every 90 seconds, was just cemented in my being, frankly. And I got emotional when I stood on board the model I have behind me, which was the prototype at Seattle's Museum of Flight. I felt it in my chest.
It showed. Yeah.
It was such an important development punt, really, by Boeing. So I have now made it a sort of slight side mission in my video game of life to go and fly one more time not on an 800. I don't know why. It doesn't feel like the soul of the. Somebody told Sam Chewy posted something recently that the 748 is just a Dreamliner with 4 engines, and the Dreamliner's great, but I'm talking about a 400.
No, I get it. It's like how can I? I'm not into cars, as you guys know. I keep saying it. I don't know why, but it's like so my friend. I was in Athens. I'll come to that story as well. He's my best friend. He has like we all do at some point, a midlife crisis, I guess. I'm not into cars. So I'm not going to have a midlife car. But he bought a 1989 911 Porsche Targa.
He and I will get on like a house on fire.
It's called the Widowmaker because it handles crazily, and we went on a ride, and it was freaking amazing. And it's like that versus buying a current Porsche, which are also still amazing machines, but you have computers controlling everything. I mean, of course, you can turn off the traction and control whatever. And I'm sure I'm not saying the right words here, and we'll have some people telling me that I'm saying shit. But that's the difference. It's still a Porsche. It's still great, but it's not that vintage. In 1989, vintage, we're still alive, man. Vintage kind of feel. Whereas, and that's the same, I guess, with the 747. The 748, and I flew it, is amazing, but it's not the same vibe. Everything kind of moves and, shackles when you take off, or when you feel actually more than hear the front wheel being extended. I mean, yeah, it's not the same.
No, it's not. It was a strange day for us AV geeks. A lot of mixed emotions.
Somebody said, I read that somewhere, that I'm just going to quote, but I don't know who said it. Nowadays, airplanes are all brain, but a 747 had heart.
I
think
that's very nice.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's very nice, yeah. If I say, in the same breath as the airport game, what airline do you first thing out of the gates when I say 747? Is there one airline you associate it with?
Pan Am.
Yeah, me too. It's amazing. It's crazy, yeah? And I've never flown Pan Am.
Yeah, Pan Am.
That, as a kid, it's like that logo. I saw pictures. I saw like miniatures. I saw, for me, it was Pan Am, and I've never flown them.
Pan Am.
Do you know which was your first 747? Which airline was it? Do you know?
World Airways.
What is that? I don't even know what is World Airways.
It's a defunct. They were mainly a charter operator in the U.S., and I was an infant. I don't remember it, obviously.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I know for a fact that it was World Airways.
Wow. Yeah. For me, it was Swiss Air, obviously. And that's when we went to the U.S., probably 1970, 80, 98. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. And again, I just have like the kind of, hints of memories because, at 4 or 5 years old, you kind of know, but you don't. I know that later on, Swiss Air, when I flying to the U.S., it was the MD-11, but back in the day, it was a 747. Yeah. Any other, do you have any one or two flights in particular that you remember particularly fondly for any reason? In a 747?
For some inexplicable reason, I have a memory of flying on British Caledonian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was right in the middle from Gatwick. I was on the upper deck because we were flying standby, and I just remember that flight being my dad saying, "Oh, this, they're not going to exist anymore because they've been bought by BA." So, we're on one of the last flights, and I just remember being upstairs and it being quiet. I was in the window seat on the right side of the airplane, and I guess it was sort of it wasn't really business class because they hadn't sort of come up with that idea yet. But I have very clear, and I can't have been more than 7 or 8.
Yeah.
But it was the amount of times that I have flown on that airplane back and forth to Hong Kong, all over the place. The other one I remember is flying on a JAL 747 from Hong Kong to Tokyo. That's the one where we flew through the typhoon. We were the last plane to leave Kai Tak before they shut the airport down. Shit. Struck by lightning twice, heavy landing in Tokyo. And I remember going, and it was like people screaming, stuff was flying everywhere. And my dad was sitting, I was on the upper deck and he was downstairs. And my dad thought, this is it.
Oh, wow.
And he had cut
much.
I'm sure I'm embarrassing him by telling him this story, but like a week before, he had cut his hand, also on an airplane, and he was gripping the seat so tightly he burst his stitches. My dad.
Oh my God! Wow.
And
Shoot.
I remember going up to the flight deck later in the flight because you could do that back then.
Yeah.
And the first officer was junior. He looked young, and he was white as a ghost. He looked terrified.
That must have been quite something. Wow.
It was a very, and actually, yeah, I mean, it caused a lot of, not issues for me, but a lot of it developed into something much, much bigger. But that flight I will never forget. But hey, it was a 747, so I was actually pretty calm in the moment. I was like, that's fine. Let's bill for this.
Goodness sake. Wow.
You?
And I mean, you just triggered a memory because you mentioned Hong Kong. I flew once. I was 25 years ago, something. I flew once from Hong Kong to Amsterdam, KLM. I do remember because it was a kind of dreadful flight because I was stupid, didn't preserve the seat, whatever. I mean, I had no money anyway, but the point was that I was in the middle seat in economy for like these 11 and so hours, and, you know, I was crazy. But what I remember particularly well, it was a Combi, 747 Combi, you know, the one that in the back. So we were pretty much not in the front, but, you know, the back was basically cargo. So you were pretty much, so even though you were in economy in the back, situationally, I was still almost over the wing. So it was kind of fun. I felt like, oh, look, I'm in front in a way. I was not, obviously, and I didn't have a window because it was a freaking middle seat. But yeah, it just triggered. It's not my best flight, but it was fun to be in a Combi. So I think that's my only time I was in a Combi. Not many had been built. No. I think. But yeah, my it's more, again, maybe recency bias, but I have. And I said that in past episodes, like maybe years ago. You know, it's been 8 years we're doing that. The Northwest 747 from Manila to Tokyo and back, before they were bought by Delta. I always loved Northwest for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I was living there and I did these back and forth quite often, actually. I was lucky enough to be, not always, but often in business class or on the top as well, on the second deck, on the upper deck. There was something about those flights, and I loved it. I don't know. And then I flew when it became Delta. For some reason, I don't know, Delta is great, but for some reason it didn't feel the same.
Yeah, I think
they repainted the planes or whatever. It didn't feel the same. I really love those Northwest flights. They have some, I don't know why. And then they would continue to the US. You know, it's one of these flights when it's a stopover, and I would not, but I would love those, man. It was, and yeah, voila. Yeah, there's one flight. Okay. And I mentioned it. It was Thai. I flew from Bangkok to Hong Kong. That was not a very long flight, but it was a 744 where the crew, as I said, back in the day was as old as the aircraft. Everybody seemed to be 60 years old plus. And I was in first because I'd found this ticket very cheap. That was during the life of this podcast, right? And it was really the way, the layout, the seats, everything was back from the 60s. Like, you know, like there was this projector in the front with the three colors that was projecting the map that, you know, when the shades are up, you basically don't see anything because, you know, it's a projector in the middle of the day, doesn't work. The seats themselves, where like the way you would move them was super old. The connectors, I didn't know what they were for. You're like, do we ever had these kind of connectors in life? You know, you have these things that at some point must have been like state of the art. And they were vintage, you know. Something goes from state of the art to being, I don't want to do it anymore, to vintage. It was that moment. It was vintage. I was like, man, I felt so amazing. And I love the fact that you could see, because 747, I think, is the only one, because of the layout of the stairs. So I was, of course, in the nose, I was downstairs. Because of the layout of the stairs, you have this weird galley that is, instead of being horizontal, is vertical. You know, it follows on the side of the stairs, and that's where they would do and you would see them like prepare the meals at a meal service, and I could see them if I just turned around. I could see them do that, and it felt like very open in a way, and it felt like, I don't know, I always felt when I was, and I don't know, maybe because I was a kid, I always felt the planes, of course they felt bigger because we were tinier. But I felt them were more open in a way. I don't know. There were less barriers. I don't know how to explain this. It felt like the cabins were wide and forever, whereas now when I feel that there's maybe more separations. I don't know if that's true.
No, you're right. Yeah, they were definitely felt more cavernous.
Yeah,
maybe it's more seats and lower overhead bins or something, like bigger overhead bins in modern airliners. I don't know. That's a good point. They definitely felt more, you know, open and spacious.
Yeah. But, you know, I was thinking about that in Athens because I was in Athens the day of, or I was going back from Athens. I was sitting there in my pub, a resin. It's amazing, man. This guy used to be a commodity trader in London or whatever. He moved to Greece, and it's been 30. The guy is in 70s. It's 34 years. He has a rock bar in the middle of Exarchia, and it's the best bar ever. They have no age, Christos and Betty, and you stay there, and it's the best place in the world. But anyway, point is, I was thinking about that, and I said, how can I describe a 747? And it's more, and I think you will feel the same. It's of course, there was a sense of place actually. Of course, there was comfort, a certain certainty, like you just mentioned about your trip when it was moving around and it was the end of it. But no, it was a certainty, a reassurance, almost solace being in a 747. There was, of course, anticipation as well because, oh my God, I'm going to be a 747. There's not that many planes when we do that anymore. No. An excitement, eagerness, elation even, I think I would say. And satisfaction, of course. And you fit in. That's the thing. We fit in a 747. Even maybe it's just a feeling. And that's why I think I call it a place more than it's a plane. I know it's a moving place, but it's a place, and it changes. I don't know, Hong Kong that you grew up in is not the same as today, and it won't be the same in 30 years. Mm-hmm. London that we live today is similar. I don't know. I remember like New York in the 80s and 90s is obviously very different from what it is today. And of course, the Tokyo I lived in is not the same as it is today, and it's not the same as it will be in 30 years. And yet they are. They're still, Hong Kong. They're still London. They're still Tokyo. They're still Athens. Whatever. Like the Alex I met you when I met you.
We met in Singapore.
2009?
Yeah,
Singapore. 2009 or 8,
something like that.
I mean, you're undoubtedly very different from the dude back then. At the same time, you still are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean for the 747. And it's even though it's not produced anymore. Like, you will be Alex in 30 years, London will be London in 30 years, Tokyo will be Tokyo in 30 years. Well, the 747s forever will be the 747. It will forever be, and it's a place.
That was beautiful. Well put.
So, France, we went through France, but you went to Stockholm first. How did you go to Stockholm this time?
Norwegian.
The actual Norwegian this time.
Actual Norwegian. The short-haul Norwegian from Gatwick, and it was cheaper than everybody else. I think the timings work. Greg and I were both on the same flight, but Greg and I never sit together when we travel.
You told us. Yeah.
And it was reasonably empty, so I think we both had 3 seats to ourselves.
Oh wow!
And we went back to that lounge that I talked about when Megan and I had gone a couple of weeks before, the My Lounge in Gatwick, with the one with the outdoor area. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's a good little lounge. The food is whatever. I had my mug of nacho cheese, as a
machine.
It was a little faffy to get into because they were training people. But
okay.
That is what it is. I never lose patience in situations like that. But it is a good little lounge to while away the time, because as we have said almost since the beginning of COVID, Gatwick is still finding its feet. Nothing is still open. The number one lounge, they were still doing reservation only access, but at least I knew that's okay. I'm just going to go across to the other one because I know I can. Yeah. I think I went in on my priority pass. But yeah, the Norwegian flight was, inoffensive, left on time. It's a very easy and short flight. And of course, we talked about this the last time I did this flight, but Arlanda is a little tired from a departure lounge perspective, but actually arrivals is just as good as any other Nordic airport. In fact, the terminal that we came into felt new and fresh. And
yeah, there's one that is a bit newer, or maybe has been refurbished, I think.
Yeah, and we met them, the least friendly immigration officers I've ever come across in the Nordics.
Shoot.
Yeah, they were. But we were in and out of there in no time.
Yeah,
and of course you just jump on the Arlanda Express and it's easy to get into town. So it's Norwegian are reliable, no frills. They feel slightly more comfortable than EasyJet, who I think found new respect for, but nice to fly on a 737-800.
Yeah,
because I compared to the US, we don't really have them unless you're flying on Ryanair or Norwegian. All of the European carriers for fairly obvious reasons.
I think KLM is the exception.
Yeah, KLM that's true.
But I don't know their situation with the 800, but yeah, I think that's
KLM and Transavia, who are a KLM child, I think, have the 737s.
Legitimate child?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't. Yeah, it's a good question. But it's a buy and board situation on Norwegian, and I think I had a cup of coffee, and that's about it. But the menus fairly inoffensive. It's one of those experiences where you just space out for 2 hours and you're in Sweden, and that what these days, what more can you hope for, really, on a short haul like that?
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Having the 3 seats, it was kind of a, I don't know, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon departure on a weekday, so it was never going to be heaving. But having those 3 seats and a little bit of space to stretch out, and the crew were friendly and efficient. So, yeah, I think these days, like I say, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. With the times we're living of all these faffing around, if everything goes well, you're just happy.
Yeah.
Plus, in Europe, what else do you want? If it's long haul, there's more promise.
Yeah.
For a flight, and
I think our expectations are higher, and you need a little bit more in terms of amenities and comfort and distraction.
Yeah, but there's also more anticipation. There's something more exciting. Maybe it's me talking here, right? I mean, of course, it's me.
It's the coffee talking. Yeah.
Yeah, but man, I had to switch from my cholesterol is bad, so I got dairy. So maybe there's more caffeine in these things now. What was it? Yeah, there's sometimes maybe also more anticipation when you go to a long haul trip, so you can associate maybe the flight with it. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I have less expectations on a short haul. I'm like, if it works, it works, and that's fine with it. Which is why I love EasyJet in Europe.
Yeah, they do work, and I think having had that experience of, was it Valencia, where everything went wrong with Whaling, surprise, having the reliability of EasyJet and the, if not the sort of comfort and stress-free situation, predictable.
Yeah, predictable.
You know how it works. They have the boarding process pretty much figured out. So you're right. You want it to just work. You want them to be on time. You expect to be elbow to elbow with anybody, and if you're not, then hooray, that's a bonus.
But Norwegian cannot deliver that.
Yeah, they did, and it was a perfectly reasonable experience and cheap.
Yeah, exactly. This is what you want, actually.
Yeah, compared to everybody else.
So yeah, I mean, Stockholm, you did record an episode. I think you mentioned it at the very beginning of the episode.
Yeah, we've just released an episode with the Stockholm episode last week.
Yeah, sorry, I should have been clearer. Yeah, on Attaché on YouTube, you can see it, and you say in this episode, if I'm not mistaken, that it's because you went.
Yes.
With Megan 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever, whenever we talked about it, that you said, oh, I should do that as an episode.
Yeah, it just felt beautiful on camera. And
it's a nice city.
Yeah, it is a nice city, and we had a good experience there. So
excellent.
Easy to film.
And then from Stockholm?
So Megan and I had our first wedding anniversary last month, and
congratulations.
And decided to meet in Paris to celebrate. We have an affinity with that city now, and it just felt like the right thing to do. And so I had booked a flight on Air France from Arlanda to Charles de Gaulle, and she had booked a flight on BA from Heathrow to Charles de Gaulle with the idea to meet at Charles de Gaulle, the romantic rendezvous in Charles de Gaulle. And so that was the idea anyway, but... Did
it work?
Were
you able to make it
ultimately work? Yeah, it was fine, actually. My flight was due to arrive, I think, like 45 minutes before hers. But actually, I got an email from Air France saying, for a very reasonable amount of money, would you like to go in business class? And it was a very reasonable amount of money. And I thought, yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's see what happens. And I have to say, the experience was outstanding. I have not flown Air France much at all. I think I flew them once from T4. Did they used to fly to T4 in
Yeah, here in London. Yeah, they used to be T4. Yeah, not anymore.
I flew them from T4 to Paris to connect to an Etihad flight because it was cheaper. And that was not great. There was a creeping delay, but that wasn't anything to do with it. Anyway, the experience with them was really, really good. I think I can't remember if I told you this, but at the gate at Arlanda, I got there very early because Greg's flight back to Gatwick was about 4 hours earlier than mine. So I had quite a long time at Arlanda and just tucked myself away in the lounge there, which is one of those third-party mediocre lounges that's blah, blah, blah. But when I went down to the gate, there must have been 40 French teenagers, like 13, 14 years old, being herded by exhausting-looking teachers. They'd obviously been on some kind of school trip. And they were not doing anything wrong in the slightest.
Of course. They're just excited.
They were excited.
The teenagers.
They were being kids. And, and there was a little bit of exasperation because they were, like, crowding up around the E-gates.
Yeah. Wow.
And I've got kids. I have almost infinite patience for kids that are just boisterous.
Plus, we've been kids. We've been that teenager at some point.
Exactly.
Come on.
So, but I thought, it's kind of late at night and they're probably getting tired. This could be a long flight. But I was like, I'm fine. They're not going to be in business. But at Arlanda, even on a short haul flight like that, they board front and rear doors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you go through the E-gate, you scan your, like that's all that happens. You just scan your boarding pass and you get on the airplane. There's no one checking your boarding pass or anything like that. And I settled in my seat. I was the last row of business on the window, and I kept expecting them to come by. And I was like, well, "This is weird. We're going to be late if they're not on board."
Oh.
And then I look back, and they said boarding complete. I'm like, "What the hell's going on? They can't have offloaded 40 teenagers because we'd be here all night with the paperwork and the baggage." And then I was like, "Oh, they're boarding from the back." And I thought, we boarded really quickly. What a good idea! Wow. Why don't we do this more often?
What was it? A 320?
It was a 320, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course they were silent the whole flight. It was great. It was very, very easy.
Good.
And I did tell you this part because the pilot came on and gave while we were sitting at the gate, the doors were closed, and gave a really long spiel in French that I got maybe 50 or 60%.
Yeah, I know that you will not do in front of me because you're British and you don't, but I know that you speak good French.
I can understand it better than I can speak it, but ostensibly it was like, we're going to be late moving because we need to de-ice and there's a very specific procedure here and here's what's going to happen. And I thought, okay, well, that's fine as long as we're not too late. And then he came on and did the whole thing in English, but in British English, like with a completely English accent.
BBC English.
BBC British English. And he introduced himself and he had a very English name. And I thought, how fascinating to have somebody who is ostensibly British, but speaking obviously flawless French and technical French, flying for the French flag carrier. So I was like, that's right. But he described the process in glorious detail that we have to shut the engines. We have to taxi back to this area, shut the engines down because we can't then ingest the liquid that they spray on the airplane to de-ice.
Oh, wow.
Everything's, it might smell a bit, but don't worry. It's completely normal. It's harmless. This is and he did it in such an educational and interesting way that I could see people genuinely sort of nodding their heads going, wow, that was interesting. I didn't know that's how it worked.
And paying attention.
Because it was almost...
Because sometimes you doze off, you're like, oh, whatever.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and it was... He told it in a sort of infotainment type of way. So there was a storytelling.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very
and
good.
I learned a lot about it. And of course, being the Nordics, the process for de-icing was incredibly efficient.
Yeah. 2
of the trucks, because they have more than one Gawick, doing both sides of the airplane and then on to the next one. And it was, and he also said, when we, as a result of the icing situation and the atmospheric conditions, when we get to our runway, what we're going to do is put the parking brake on and hoon the engine for a good 30 seconds. This is normal. Don't freak out. So, and then I'm going to release the parking brake, and it's going to feel like a very fast car.
Like a 7.5.
Oh God, yes. Like a 7.5. And I thought, how interesting. I didn't know that was protocol, but of course, ice building up on the fan plates.
Yeah.
Really interesting. But the way he described...
But then he would explain
the whole process, and of course, that's exactly what we did. And I was rubbing my hands going, I love this feeling, because you do it at London City, and it's, it's bam, back in your seat, and off you go.
Yeah.
And then on board, or, en route...
Yeah.
The service was outstanding. The food was exquisite. I mean, asterisk
French.
For an airplane.
Yeah.
The champagne was great, but just the friendliness and the attentiveness on a short haul product, I was impressed. I was impressed. Just from beginning to end on a 2.5 hour flight.
Yeah.
Beautiful views because it was crystal clear all the way through over the the Netherlands and into France, and then down at Charles de Gaulle. And then this Charles de Gaulle, I'm still not overly familiar with that airport.
So just to context, you arrive at 2F because that's a Schengen terminal, so Sweden being part of Schengen. And Megan arrived at 2E, which is a non-Schengen. She has to go through passport control. I mean, they're one in front of each other. I mean, like opposite each other. So it's very easy then to.
Yeah, and what's you land, and then you go on a country drive.
Yes.
You drive and you're turning corners, and You're not stopping. You're not waiting. You're not faffing. Because you're
driving.
You're past the runways. You're just driving around. Going around a corner and then up a hill a little bit and then down. It's just exactly that. I was like, and I'm like, we were on time. Actually, I think we landed early, and I had internet so I could see. And Megan was telling me, I'm on board. And then when she was in the air, I could see on flight radar. I've got plenty of time. And eventually we stop and we're at a remote gate and jump on the bus. But even that, it wasn't a pain in the butt. You get off, and of course there's no immigration because, as you said, it's Schengen, and you're out. And the airport was pretty much dead at that point because it was like 10:45 at night. All the departing flights from that terminal had gone.
Yeah.
Quick walk over to 2F, and Megan emerged immediately. Well, not immediately.
And then you took a cab?
We took a cab, and they tried the standard Parisian taxi cab scam of, I accept credit cards. Oh, wait, my credit card machine is broken.
Yeah, my God. I know, man. And then they wonder why sometimes I chose Uber or anyway.
But
I mean, it's still a standard. I think it's a fixed rate.
Yeah, fixed rate, and I think it's still the way to go because the RER had stopped running by that point at night.
Yeah. Plus the RER is, they will eventually, they said, it's been years now, but they will have a TGV, so high speed that will connect to the center.
Which would make things a little bit easier.
The RER is, this is a suburban train line is not the greatest, let's be frank.
No, and especially at that time of night, even if it was running, I'd probably avoid it.
No, I would not take it. Yeah, even if it was running, I would not.
So 5 stars to Air France. Bravo.
Good.
Bravo. I don't have status with them or anybody in that alliance, so they weren't kissing my butt for no apparent reason. It was just good. It was just good.
Yeah. I remember the days when I had platinum because I flew. I'll tell my story in a bit. I hope you enjoyed Paris.
Lovely. Yep.
Did you meet Emmanuel Macron this time?
Not this time. No, I was kind of disappointed. Ridiculous. He'd clearly not been informed of our arrival. But it was good. And we took the Eurostar home.
Good. Yeah, that's a very nice option as well.
Yeah, it's still chaotic. And reading articles, even they say we don't know if we're going to survive, let alone get back to the service levels that we experienced in the past, which is such a shame because it is a great way of getting to the continent for us here.
Yeah, I could go to Amsterdam, Lille, Paris.
Yeah.
I think there are plans even, but it's depending on their financial situations, and it's a bit sad, but yeah. And apparently, I've heard I've not taken it since the pandemic, thus since Brexit. Apparently now the passport procedure at St. Pancras of going to the continent is a bit more faffing around, and you need, of course, more time in advance because before it was very quick. Even though we were not in Schengen, it was quicker than it is now.
Yeah.
At some point, the EU will introduce their equivalent of the ESTA, so the pre-check form you have to fill online, whatever, and apparently they will require fingerprinting, which will also increase a lot of the timings at, of course, at airports as well. But you can see that St. Pancras and also, let's be honest, Gare du Nord were not really designed for long queues to check passports.
They really
and
are
security.
not. They really, and they've tried to kind of shoehorn it into the physical
Yeah.
space they have available to them, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to turn off the light that's flashing behind me for no obvious reason. All right. Piece of crap.
As long as it's not burning. Yeah, so I also took Air France, but since we're on Air France, again, context, because sometimes I know I repeat myself, we repeat ourselves, and sometimes we also have to be cognizant that there are new listeners that have not heard episodes from 2016 or something, so sorry if it's a repeat. I used to fly a lot Air France when I was living in Japan. That's the way I was going back to Europe from Tokyo to Charles de Gaulle E, and then I would transfer to F and fly to Geneva because that was within Schengen. So I was platinum and everything. I always kind of enjoy them, but I haven't flown them for a while. I know, quick update for those who want to fly Air France, they've just released their new business class seats on the 777. Yeah, on the 777. They have the door because they're made by Safran, which is of course a French company. So they're keeping with the French guillotine tradition, because that door has a button, and apparently the door, I mean, there's small videos online you can find. As soon as you press the button, it slams shut. Donk, donk. And it's a guillotine, basically. So if I'm kidding, obviously, but apparently it's, compared to all the doors in other airlines, BA Club Suite, Virgin, which I haven't done, or, the Q Suite, they're more like, they close off normally, or you have to do it manually yourself. This one has a button with probably some springs to kind of shut it, but really, man.
It's like the tray table on A&A in business class.
Yeah, it's a guillotine. So if you've flown it, just let us know if your foot has been severed by the door if you're tall. And apparently it's also, if you're in front, so if you're in the seat in front of the person behind you is shutting his or her door off, you're probably going to feel the same way at that flight 747 from Hong Kong in a typhoon, because apparently the entire frame of the seat in front is moving. I'm exaggerating for the point, guys, but yeah, it's fun. They look good, however. They do look like a very good seat. So back to Air France. I flew. So Paolo, good friend of mine, we spent New Year's Eve together. I remember, guys, I told you I had no electricity until pretty late, and then the electricity went back. When the electricity went back, one of the first thing I did, and Paolo, now you'll understand why I had a laptop on my lap at around 9 p.m. I was like, shoot, I'm losing 45,000 miles on SkyTeam, so Flying Blue, which is a Air France KLM program, because I haven't flown them at all. The rule is if you fly once per year, you keep your miles, right? No matter the status. And I haven't flown them, and it's the 31st of December, and I knew it was coming, but I couldn't find a reason to fly them. Back in the day, I would probably have, but I'm like, why? So I'm like, I'm not going to lose them. I want to use those. So I needed to go to Athens to sort out, bank accounts and stuff, like admin stuff, not fun stuff, but I needed to sort them out. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to book like a block of dates a week. I was looking, that's what I was doing, Paolo. I was looking at, to make it these 45,000 to make them fit into something so I don't lose, or I don't, end up having to pay with a mix of cash. And I found a week, and I said, you know what, at least I cannot cancel, because if I cancel that flight, I didn't know if I would be even available, but if I cancel that flight, my miles are not getting returned because they were ending, but I can still move them around, so I can always push them back to April, whatever. So comes like 10 days later, I'm saying, you know what, actually I can go, so I'm just going to use those. But of course, going to Athens, it's a bit silly to do, but I mean, why not? I did London, Charles de Gaulle, Athens, and the same back. Why not? It was fun. But I had the same experience as you. I mean, so first it was T3, which is very new, because pre-pandemic, like you said yourself, the SkyTeam airlines were at T4. They decided not to go back. Actually, the SkyTeam lounge and everything is completely shut down and dismantled. So this really a proof that they're not going to come back. They haven't built, however, a SkyTeam lounge at T3. So you are going to the Club Aspire, which we said that the logo of the Club Aspire is a ripoff of Cathay Pacific, man. Right?
Yeah, they didn't do a whole lot of work on that one.
The intern just do something that looks like a premium something about flying. Oh, Cathay Pacific looks the same. It's tiny though. I mean, it's great, but it's tiny. I was lucky to find a seat because it's rammed. Because of course it's one of the third-party lounge. Which, by the way, I didn't realize. Number One and Aspire are basically both owned by Swissport. So basically they compete.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I guess what they did like multiple tier of type of lounges, and they own all of them basically. So there you go.
That's actually pretty smart.
Premium Plaza, I think, is from Hong Kong, right? Originally, are saying so that's different. But anyway, nice enough lounge. Waiting for my T3 flight. Honestly, T3, and that's where I was going earlier. Is Heathrow, overrated airport. T3 is really showing its age, man. More and more. Maybe I don't know. The more I fly, I'm like, this is really an old terminal now. Not really nice. Anyway, the flight was very short to Paris, obviously, because it's like in actual time, it's probably 40 minutes. But I was a very 319, very nice. But you go up, and as soon as you're up, like, hey, I booked in because I wanted to use the miles. I booked in business class. Why not? Which in Europe, of course, is just a seat free next to you. But I was in. That's the only flight I was able to have the front row. Yeah, by the time you get champagne, which you said it's actual champagne because it's France, please. It's not a sparkling wine, it's actually champagne. By the time they give you the champagne, basically the flight is already going on descent to go to Charles de Gaulle. So it's really, super quick. That was nice, actually. That was... The flight crew, I mean, I speak French, maybe they changed the dynamics. I'm very happy to have heard that you said that you had a good time. Yeah, it was really, really nice. I stayed because that was a quirk of my stupid me. That was the quirk of my ability to find these very low miles business class to Athens. I had to stay overnight in Charles de Gaulle, so I stayed at a hotel there with points. So basically, my whole thing was basically bankrupting my different accounts with point of Sheraton, which is actually exactly between 2E and 2F, the ones when you met basically Megan in Paris.
Yeah, I saw the signs for it.
Honestly, the passport control was very nice. I mean, I don't have a British passport, but it doesn't really change anything because the lines were both empty. I guess maybe because I was in business by the time, but it was a 319, so it must have been pretty fast.
Yeah.
Then I was through. I didn't have check-in luggage. I just actually, it's very interesting. Maybe you noticed that, but Air France, I was like, especially post-pandemic, I'm checking what is allowed in the cabin in terms of size of luggage. And I basically have the right of 2 carry-ons in business with Air France.
Wow.
Because the size of 2, they say 2 plus 1. So the plus 1 is a laptop or a small bag.
Yeah, something that goes under your seat.
But the 2, the first is literally the size of a usual carry-on. And the second one is a difference of 5 centimeters. So basically it's a carry-on minus, but it's still a carry-on. So I almost had 2 carry-ons with me. And I go to the airport feeling like a criminal. Like they will never allow me to get with 2 big bags. No, it was fine. They business didn't care. I still went, early in the queue because I said, 319. I don't want to fight for the overhead, even though in business it was never an issue. Anyway, I spent the night there. It was really really nice at the Sheraton because it has some views on the tarmac. You can see the birds either side, so you're either on 2E, 2F. The view, so it's pretty nice. Nothing extraordinary. It's probably not JFK at TWA Hotel, right? But it's still nice. You have some views.
What is?
And then the next morning I fly to Athens. It's very early. I want also to go very early. This one is at 2F, so the Schengen terminal, obviously, because I'm already now in Schengen, being in France. As soon as I arrive in 2F, I see, there's a fast track. They call it, priority, sky priority number 1. So I go there. I'm literally the only one, so I could have gone anywhere. It was super fast. They don't have the new machine, so you still have to put everything out. But that's fine. And what I wanted to do, that was my only real shot to do, they have this brand new lounge at 2F. So I remember back in the day when I was doing these trips from Japan, 2F has these weird piers, 2 piers, and the lounges were at the very end of the piers, like you had to go steps down. So it was not underground, but it was on the level of the tarmac. With no real, you had some views, you'd see some aircrafts. They were very cramped, very old. Of course I feel some nostalgia because I used to go there a lot. But that new lounge, holy cow. So they bolted between the piers, they bolted a new bit of the building. I remember seeing it built back in 2018, and I guess they were late because of the pandemic. Holy cow, there's like 2 floors, and that's why I wanted to be super early. I arrived at 6 a.m. and my flight was not before 9:55 or something. I said, I want to see that lounge without having too many people. And you arrive at a huge grand staircase that goes from down to up. There's like croissant and pain au chocolat everywhere. Well, welcome to France. That's where we should have met, Alex, to have a croissant together and that lounge.
Yeah.
And coffee machines. Now, honestly, it's very well designed, very airy, very large. And the windows, it's like the windows, they all have, as if, what's these connected lights? Philips Hue, they would have like Philips Hue all over the place. It would change subtly color every few minutes, and it went from white to blue to red. It gave like this hue. It's very, 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 very well done. You enter by just scanning your boarding pass. There's of course somebody to help, like it's in Turkey for Istanbul, another opportunity to visit. Like you don't have to faff around. You just scan, you're in. For me, I didn't have any status, but I had business class. That was it. I was in, and I was right to arrive super early because even that one felt cramped by the time I was leaving.
That's interesting.
And it's huge. It's I think it's 3,000 square meters.
Wow.
There's almost 600 seats. And it felt busy when I left. So meaning they were right to build one because evidently I went upstairs because I said, people kind of default to what they see first. I'm like, if I go upstairs, it'll be less people. And I was right. But then at some point, even that became busy because probably there were no more seat downstairs. But really, it's the largest Air France lounge they have in the world. It's really amazing. There's another lounge I would qualify for those who fly. The lounge at 2E, so the non-Schengen in the L gates, because there's like multiple gates systems there. It's very good, but that's probably the best. The one I'm just mentioning, the 2F, is the best lounge, Air France lounge I've ever seen. It's probably one of the top 10 lounges in the world I've seen.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really that good. All tables have a USB-A thing, like super, very well, like, how the French can be good at design. It looks super nice and there's nothing in your face. There's nothing, we forgot to put the USB, so let's have something ugly. Like everything is well hidden, but you have power because at first I'm like, where's the power? And there's power literally in every single seat, every single table. There's multiple powers hidden. You have plugs. Honestly, man, it's really, really, there's a spa, there's a bar, there's a bistro.
Wow.
It wasn't open by then because in the bistro, it's for lunch, right? It's for déjeuner. It wasn't open back then, but apparently it's great. There's a detox bar, whatever. I mean, it was 6 a.m., so I was just having a coffee. There's also beds. Yeah, so you can probably sleep for a little while. It's not open during the night because, there's no flights. But you can also probably, you can curtain them off, and...
Oh, like in the Cathay Lounge.
Yeah, exactly. So... It's really, really, really nice. Then bus. I hate buses. I know you just said it was fine, but
I'm not. Boarding. I don't. Yeah.
It was really funny because your story reminded me of that because there's two sets of runways. So there's 4 runways at Charles de Gaulle. So of course, if you're ever the north ones and you have to go south, that's where you travel. Mm-hmm. I felt like that in the bus. I probably stayed in the bus for 15 minutes going around. So it was great for the views, by the way, all these birds, you see first the Air France and then, American, and wow, Qantas, and you see all the, because it's a grand airport. But actually where the gates were not that far. So the stands were not that far from where we left from, but we had to do this all round to avoid all basically, ongoing traffic and everything. So it took 15 minutes to do like a big loop to arrive at these remote stands. And that was fine. Another 319. I was like, oh my God. Cramped, completely cramped. All the 319, I flew all 319, these flights. They were all from like 1999 or 2000. So they're pretty old.
Yeah, they're working hard, those planes.
It takes forever to board because it's cramped and people, fight for the overhead space, but it was really nice. And the captain also had to explain to us, we had to de-ice. And I was like, there's no snow, but probably because we were early.
It's been sitting overnight.
I thought that was my assumption. But apparently the flight had been coming from a Nordic country before the previous flight. So that bird had been so the regulation meant that we had to de-ice.
Oh, that's interesting.
And whilst the operation is not probably as good as the one you witnessed, it's just before the runway, before you get into the runway, there's a spot. There's also 4 machines, so 2 come to you, of course. So there's space for 2, I guess, 2 birds at the same time. Heathrow, Gatwick, as you can, Paris doesn't have that much snow, and they have that. And they de-iced. There was no explanation like the one you had, but it was still fun to see. I love that.
No, I do too.
And then off we went. It was really a really nice flight. Like exactly what you said. I was reminded of how good the service is on Air France. And I hadn't really flown a lot of short haul. I mean, Athens is 3 hours, short haul-ish. I used to fly long haul with them. It's really, really good. I mean, the food was obviously excellent. That's French. Like you said, the champagne was very good. But the service was very warm, very attentive, looking right into your eyes. I mean, I really, really liked it a lot.
It's made me want to look at Air France as a way of getting south and east from here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, it really. It was funny. One anecdote. It happened on all my flights, but not the London ones, the big ones. So big, the Athens to Paris and back. During the flight, like under 2/3 of the flight, you would see the pursuer. I don't know what's the chef de cabine. I guess what's the name? I don't know. They call it PNC, personnel navigant something, PCN, PNC. Anyway, the head was going around in business class and basically selling the Flying Blue program. And she the 2 times, I think, had an iPad. It was very clever because it was not one of these, heavy selling, like, you got to go and sign up to the credit card. No, it was just very subtle. And literally, I think the conversion rate, at first I was kind of baffled that out of, let's say, 5 rows, so 5, you were like 5 by 4, so see, like 20 people, like probably a good third didn't have any idea of a mile system. Like, you're in business class and you're not getting any miles.
Yeah.
I'm not being dismissive. I'm just saying I was surprised, Maybe because the kind of people that travel now are less corporate, are more like leisure, and they don't have any idea. Maybe they're making themselves a treat by traveling business class. But our hit rate, the conversion rate was probably almost 100%. Everybody like, oh, of course, I'm going to sign up to. But at the end of the day, you're only getting miles. They don't force you to a credit card or something. Mm-hmm. So, and because she had the iPad, the sign-on was happening on the flight. There was no a promise. Oh, don't worry, I'll fill the form later.
Very good idea.
It was interesting to see, and it was really well practiced. And the person who came up with a sales pitch was very well done, and I heard it both in English and in French, and it was like, I'm like, wow, kudos. It's not in your face. It's I would do that. So they understood.
Wow,
yeah, great. And then Athens. Airport I love, especially Schengen, the same experience you had when you out in 3 minutes, and like it almost feels like cheating.
Yes, very much so.
Right? You're like,
did I miss a step?
What?
Am I going to get tackled?
Why didn't you ask me for my passport?
Yeah.
So it was great. Then, of course, Athens was fantastic. I was staying next to the place that appears on your Athens Attaché episode, the ice cream parlor, obviously, because that's where my flat is. So very, very close.
Such a good place.
The return was great. Athens airport, again, it's one of these airports I like. I could have said in our game we did earlier. It's I felt, for the first time post-pandemic, I felt that I got my mojo back at security. Because it felt for me, I was still kind of rusty all these other times I went to security. Like sometimes, like, fuck, I forgot this. Where did I put it? Like I had, maybe like you do as well. I have my backpack. I know exactly where the things are that I need to put out. And it's like almost like
yes.
And I kind of lost that rhythm.
Yeah. Oh, that's understandable, isn't it? That muscle memory's gone.
Yeah. And that was the first time I was in Athens and I did it even without thinking. And then I'm past security and I'm like, oh, that was quick. I did everything right. Mm-hmm. Finally, it's back.
It's back. I have to think about it.
Lounge, third-party lounge. I think it's called Gold Air. It's nothing to write home about. But in my memory, I think SkyTeam had a lounge there, but maybe I'm mistaken. Anyway, it was good. Again, flight was rammed. Again, 319. But that time, I got a free seat next to me, which is nice because all the flights before the first one, I was in 2, which means with my height, staying upright is a bit. So I like to kind of expand on the 3 rows. Of course, when there's someone, I try not to be like the guy that opens his leg to a massive extent. But that I was like, oh my god, super! There's no one, so I was basically almost taking the full 3 seats for me. So that was very nice for a flight that is long, so 3 hours. So yeah, it was absolutely great. There is I saw a sign of Wi-Fi. So some of these aircraft, although they are from the 2000s or end of the 90s, they've been retrofitted with Wi-Fi, but never it worked. Not that I cared because I downloaded stuff. I just wanted to mention. It's nice that they have. And what else? Oh yeah, switching terminals at Paris. So I'm from 2F to 2E, which is to go back to London. You have to go to a non-Schengen terminal, and that fast track, man. So at 2E there was a fast track. The K gates, because it's KL, which always makes me funny because I think it was written in the stars that Air France and KLM will be together, because at 2E the gates are called KLM. So yeah, I was at K. The fast track was the biggest disaster ever, man. I mean, and it was Sky Priority number 1. So supposedly the fast track, the nice one, and my god, the disaster. That it's badly built. So you know how when these things where you put your trays is too short, so you don't really have time to prepare. So people are all behind trying to already remove their belts and whatever, and they're faffing around, and it's a mess. People are all over each other, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And that's when obviously the only time in all those flights that my bag got sidetrack, we need to recheck it. Only that there were probably 18 bags before mine. Thank God I was early, but 18 bags before mine, and I think it took like 30 minutes for my bag to be checked.
Oof.
I mean, I actually got a seat. And it's not maybe their fault. It's the way it's designed, and maybe they're understaffed. But you're like, what the hell? She was very nice when she ended up around my back. And, I'm a nice guy, so I'd say, tough luck today. I eased her into liking me. Like, please like me, don't overdo it. Yeah, and the worst was that it was a random check.
Oh no!
I said, so what's in the bag that I forgot? He's like, no, it's one of these. And oh my god! Anyway, so yeah, and then flight again, short haul 319 again, all throughout, and that was probably my last word. All throughout, the crew was a standout. The crew was a standout.
It's interesting. So it's not an anomaly. It was consistent for both of us.
Yeah, it was consistent. I mean, of course, probably the one you get acquainted more with, the one with the longer flight. The one from London, you say hi, you speak 2 minutes, and then basically you're already in London, or the opposite. But yeah, they were really, really, really nice, honestly. And each time the captain on the Athens flight came out and greeted us at the exit to say goodbye, thank you for flying.
Wow.
So it was kind of nice, honestly. I don't know, there's something.
So they have come out of the pandemic, it seems, with a newfound joie de vivre.
No, but honestly, I there's these things we keep mentioning it, that now that our statuses are getting lost in the ether of the jet fuels, that allows us to try other stuff. Well, like you, I'm like, oh, this is nice. Should I fly that more?
Yeah, it's nice to have options.
Options, yeah. Anyway, it was fantastic. I forgot. I know one of the crew was called Alexia. As Alexia is a Greek way to say it, but she's clearly not Greek, so Alexia. Another was François. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, I wrote a nice note to Air France afterwards saying they were really. They kind of went, above and beyond. Yeah,
it's important
for such short flights. They don't really have to. But he just made everything nice. And the champagne is great. I mean, of course, the champagne is great. And you know how it is. That's the only place besides that on New Year's Eve when I drink champagne that I really love that one. Anyway, so after missing each other in Paris, I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to disrupt your 1 year anniversary. It would have been a bit weird anyway. There's Paul. You went to the US. I think so. We mentioned at the top that DC you tagged along with Ed, but not really. And then I'm basing that on your Instagram stories. I guess you went to New York afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So go on. How was that? Who did you fly with?
Well, yeah. So I went to DC for work, for multiple layers of work, and I booked us on BA initially on an A380, and I was excited. I was really excited to get back on a 380. Had been ages years because of the pandemic. And I thought, I'm excited. I got us two, Megan and I have seats upstairs.
Nice.
Twos with this thing. And I was like, you know what? I like that cabin. I'm excited. Greg went on Iceland Air because he initially had to come back on Saturday, which meant all of the major carriers were not an option because it would have been thousands and thousands and thousands. Yeah. So he went on Iceland Air via Keflavik, and he had to upgrade, I think actually the whole way, and was very, very complimentary about it the whole way. And it was a max 8, but for both legs.
Yeah.
And he said that there was hardly anybody in the cabin, but the food was outstanding. Nice. The service was really good. The seat was comfortable, and it's a regional business class product because it's a narrow body. Yeah. It's nothing like JetBlue or anything like that. But he was very, very complimentary, and it was a very reasonable price to do not just the base fare to get to DC, but also to upgrade. And I was worried because and I'll get to our flights in a second. When we had landed in DC, I pulled up to see Flight Radar to see where his flight was, and I was like, I assumed he was going to be on a 7.6 or a 7.5. Or maybe have Iceland Air retired their 7.5. Anyway, I assumed they would be on a 7.6 because it's like 6 hours from Keflavik to DC.
Yeah,
and I saw it, and I was like, he's had to go 6 hours in a 737. I did not know he had upgraded at this point. And I was like, oh man, he's going to be just beat by the time he gets there. But actually, no, he said it was a very, very good experience. So that's like another, he said the layover, as brief as it was in Keflavik, was very easy because like Zurich and many of the other Nordic airports, Helsinki, they have it down to an art.
Yeah.
So I was impressed by that, and it's very tempting next time I go to the East Coast to try that. But when the night before we were due to fly, I got an email. Actually, you know what? I didn't get an email because it's BA. I went to look on our seats to see if
probably I got the email by mistake.
Yeah, you got the email in Spanish. Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? I joke about that, but I'm going to tell you something that actually happened. I went to do online check-in the night before, and it was like our seat number had changed by like 40. It had gone from like 72 because you're on the upper deck, and it's got and it was now 30, and I was like,
what?
Have I been upgraded? No, they've just changed the goddamn airplane. And we were on separate bookings, Megan and I. And so they had moved us to like, I think the second or third row of economy on a 789. And I was disappointed, not because I dislike the Dreamliner. I like the Dreamliner, but it's all I've flown. Yeah. It's all I have flown for the last 3 years. And I was excited to get back. And I like the 380 very much. So I rearranged our seats, and one of the gold perks on BA is they block the seat next to you if capacity allows, and sure enough they did. And we were checking a bag because Megan's sole intent in the US was to shop.
Good.
And actually, she visit some museums. She's a total art gallery fiend, so she did that as well. But we wanted to bring some stuff back, as did I. So we checked a bag at the first class wing at BA in T5, and the very easy process. A very nice lady took care of it, and into the first lounge, which continues to get better and better. Back to what, and I think they're lucky because of the fog of war. I can't remember if it's just back the way it used to be or if it's actually getting better. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's getting better. And we sat. You'll know this, but if you're familiar with that lounge, as you come in, immediately to the right, there's some floating chairs, if you will, either not sofas or bolted to the floor. Right by the window, the sun was pouring in and was just calling to us. So we sat there, had a cup of coffee and bacon sandwich, and we weren't there for that long because we were at a B gate, but the food was good and fresh and tasty. The coffee seems to get better and better as well. They're definitely figuring that out. The hard product on BA, both in the air and on the ground, they seem to be cracking that nut. By the way, the reason our airplane was swapped is, from what I then researched, BA are having real dispatch reliability issues with the 380s. Because you forget there aren't actually that many of them. There's only, I think, 11.
For a BA, you mean?
That are operational in the fleet. Some are still parked.
I think there's only one parked. I think they had 12, and I think 10 or 11 are in the air or something.
And they're having real problems, not from a kind of aeronautical perspective, i.e., there's too many business class seats inoperable, and so we can't do this. We're going to take it over, which I think speaks volumes to the Dreamliner as well, that it's doing that. But we walked to the B gates.
Yeah, but probably the Dreamliner is also more recent, so it helped probably a bit as well.
It's more recent. It doesn't have the suites, which apparently are causing some issues, and because and it simply doesn't have the number of seats to maintain and keep up and we've touched on this in the past, that a 380 does. But we walked down to the B gates in the underground tunnel at Heathrow, which is just by far still the way to go. So we were B gates, Dreamliner, and the flight was clearly not going to be completely full, but the boarding process, and this is where BA really still is struggling. While you were telling the Air France story, I was thinking about this. It feels like Air France have benefited from a massive post-pandemic hiring drive. And they have done a really good job of disseminating and teaching the culture that they were aspiring to.
I agree.
What they have actually done.
I agree. It didn't feel for me that I used to fly, and I have over the years flown here and here, a little bit Air France, like here and here. Like I said at some point, to requalify for that SkyTeam thing once a year.
Yeah.
It seems no different. They probably took an effort from them to keep that no difference that I feel.
Yeah.
Because now that you say it, because at that point I was like, I know that they're good. Yep. But even on the ground at Charles de Gaulle, which is, there, of course, it's Air France, but it's also the ground. That was really at the gate. I mean, right? Really good.
And the reason I'm thinking this is because the soft product, or the people, frankly,
the people,
at BA, that is the massive inconsistency. And I think it was letting a bunch of seasoned veterans go during the pandemic, and that was a decision.
You mentioned, you used the term, there's no memory, basically, I think.
No, there isn't any memory, and nor did they do what
the effort of training towards that aspiration.
Aspiration, exactly, not just minimal standard.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I'll pick this fight as long as I'm drawing breath. I think Brexit has massively contributed to this, because you have drastically reduced the available talent pool.
Though I mean, BA also did, like you said, restructure, so fired a few people, and they have now bases. Well, let's see how it is in a year time, because now they have opened these bases in Madrid for short-haul operations to actually catch those EU hires. So let's see. But I think as long as they don't, to hammer your point down, as long as they don't seem to be pushing for some cohesiveness in the experience in that culture, the expression of that culture.
Yeah.
Because we know what we think when we think BA, but the expression of that culture is not there. It doesn't. And I haven't, as you know, guys, I haven't flown BA nearly as much as you have since the pandemic is over. I mean, post-pandemic. But yeah, it was always something that I felt before, but before probably BA was saved is maybe an overstatement by the fact that they had all these senior people that have been around for so long that they knew it. They just knew it was part of their persona to do it, Yeah. The management didn't have to tell them to express the culture. It was just there because they had done it for 30 years, and now maybe not anymore.
And I don't think that they did a good job of distilling what made BA different, because they've gone through so many leadership changes.
Yeah. Oh, obviously. Yeah. No, sorry. I thought
corporate culture changes, and I don't think that it's a differentiator anymore. But and you felt it in the experience of the boarding process was shambolic, and there was a guy who was in 1F, and with his executive club gold bag tags on everything he owned, and he was rude and abrasive.
Oh God.
To us fellow passengers with massive don't you know who I am syndrome.
Yeah, main character.
Yeah, just a jerk, and it ratcheted up the tension in an already tense situation.
Process,
And you get on board, and we had the seat in front of between us, and the flight was it was fine, and everybody knows my feeling about that word. The food was edible, except the portions are microscopic.
Really?
Yeah, it's the service. It's the service. It wasn't unfriendly or rude or abrasive. It just there was nothing. There was no
connection.
Nothing. They still aren't doing the thing that we spent a long time talking about with Ed. The name recognition. I've gotten over that. It just. I don't know. There wasn't any type of chemistry or anything, and you looking around, there was it wasn't happening. It wasn't just me that they were dunking on. It was everybody.
Now what did you mention? Because we started with that kind of comparison with Air France because we both did it recently. I lost my platinum status with Air France KLM. The Sky Team in. Wow, 2015, 2014, so a long time ago, because that's when I started switching more towards Lufthansa and then BA, so One World, and so I gave up on Sky Team, right? I cannot remember which flight, but they had that information. They knew that I had been platinum for several years in a row, and I'm not for like more than almost a decade right by now. So it's not even relevant, but they knew it. I don't remember in which context. I think it was at Alexia. I was talking to her about how fun that she was trying to, enroll these other passengers to your Flying Blue program. And we were just chatting about. And she said something like, yeah, but you must know as a ex-platinum member. I don't remember former platinum. She used to, and at the moment I didn't even click. I continued the discussion, and then she left, and I'm like, what? She knew, so it was probably marked on my profile, and she had studied that profile before. And I called her. She didn't come to me and learn my profile before, so they must have a mark that this person might have been a good customer. So if he or she is flying with us, make a good effort because maybe they could come back. I don't know what it is that they have on their iPad, but see,
I hope that's the case because I preach that.
That's why you feel something important. I'm like, I used to be a good customer. I know that. But the fact that they mention it makes you feel good. Even though maybe, I don't think I will ever be able to fly anymore to get to that status. But the fact that they recognize it and they kind of, they don't push it. They're like, you should fly more. It's like, there's what Lufthansa said. You have various options available. But especially, we keep saying that. I know we both boost that point every time on this podcast and with Ed, and we do. Now there's almost less excuse because they have this an iPhone, an iPad, or an Android, it doesn't matter, and they can have like cues of information about each of us that are, I don't know, like they knew, like Air France knew that I speak French. Papa Dimitriou. And I have a Swiss. Generally, people when they see a Swiss passport, they speak to me in German first. And I'm like, oh my God, my German is so rusty. So they have these hints of information that, this guy speaks French, and they speak, bonjour, Monsieur Papa Dimitri. Oh my God. And you don't even feel it when they do it. It's afterwards, because I think like you do, I start rethinking of how the experience felt. And I'm like, oh my God, they spoke to me in French even before I said something in French. So they knew it, right? But it felt totally natural. Anyway, sorry I interrupted your.
No. I think it's a very important point, and it just there's something about that at BA that's just lacking because it's you've all heard me bitch about various aspects of the product pre and post pandemic, but they have gotten better and better. Like the IFE now is really very good.
Okay,
the screen, the hardware is just old and crap, and my touchscreen didn't work, and whatever. That's a minor irritation.
Yeah.
But the content is very, very good now. It's deep and it's rich, and it's not just new stuff. There's a lot of like, I haven't seen that movie in years. That's a good comfort classic. It's good. The food in economy, it wasn't bad and it wasn't good. It was what it I think has always been, even if Doe & Co. It's that soft product. But they got us there. I believe, on time. Dulles is a very, very strange airport. 50 minutes outside of DC.
Is Dulles the one that is actually in Virginia?
Yeah, they both are. Dulles and Reagan are technically in Virginia.
Yeah, I haven't been there for a long, long time in DC.
But it's a you get on the weird kind of Star Wars-esque people mover from that one terminal to the other.
Yeah.
Which had been around since I lived there, which I was born there and left when I was like months old, so 40 plus years.
Yeah, but some permanence is good.
Yeah. Oh, they're fun.
Yeah,
they're fun. It's kind of a unique way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than a soulless train. But while we were there, obviously, when we were filming an episode, among other things, and we talk about the various airports, of course. And I wasn't going to go back to DC, to Dulles to film. But Reagan DCA is right there, minutes away. So we went. And it turns out, after a little bit of research, there was a park at the end of one of the runways. And I thought, well, that's a great place to go get some B-roll and some footage. I didn't appreciate that it is literally at the end of the runway. And you are standing there. And you can stand in between the guiding lights, the landing lights of they're behind you. Usually, there's a big fence.
Yeah.
And then there's the lights, and then there's a runway. No. The edge of the physical asphalt runway is only separated with a sort of it's not even a river, a stream.
Yeah.
And then it's you. And so we stood there, and it's very small, generally CRJs, E170s, E190s, 737s, and A321X20s, and all that stuff. But they are just, tapping you on the head with their wheels, and I did my little shtick there. But I had never experienced this before. We were waiting for the right plane to come over and for Greg to get enough footage so he could stitch something together. I was like, what the hell is that noise that keeps happening? Like the plane's landed. It landed about 40. It's nothing. And I realized after a little bit that it was the wake coming off of the wings, whipping right past us, and it sounded like something had sprinted past.
Some kind of
silently,
microbursts
like a ghost. And the tree next to you will all of a sudden just burst into life, and then go down. And it sounded like something had just flipped past her. It was very, and of course it's like maybe 35 feet on either side of you because it's coming off of the wings and dispersing down at an angle. I had never experienced like that.
We know that's why airplanes have to do separation between each landing, but we see schematics and
and you see it in fog. And,
exactly,
it looks elegant.
Exactly, but to actually experience it, wow!
No, it was violent. and I hope maybe
that's a reason for me to go to DC now.
Because it's cool, and it's you get a great view and all of that. And actually, if you ever fly in and out of DCA, you get great views of the city. Megan was talking about that.
Never been to that park, and experiencing that. And
you can get there from we left from the Lincoln Memorial and took an Uber, and we were there in 8 minutes.
Oh wow, okay, cool.
So it's really is right there. So we did that, and it was cool. But actually, then we went to New York, and we took the train.
Oh, the Acela?
We took the Acela. I had very low expectations.
Sorry to interrupt, but maybe it's because I've done it a long time ago. Now we're talking, 10 years ago, a few times. I enjoyed it every time.
Well, I had done it once from New York to Boston in 2008, and it all worked. It worked fine then, but it's America's relationship with passenger rail.
It's not the Shinkansen or the TGV, Eurostar, whatever. I know.
It was very
But still.
reasonably priced. Union Station in DC is
Yeah.
glorious.
It's very
Just
nice,
A wonderful building.
I
so
agree.
Beautiful. And we could only, for some reason, there were no tickets available in anything other than what they call business class.
Yeah.
And there's also a first class.
Yes.
But we went in business class. The boarding, I didn't know when to get there, so we got there like 40 minutes early, and you don't need to get there like 5 minutes early. And it was great. It left on time. It arrived to the minute on time. And, we had a table that was, the thing was empty. It was, I think it was a Saturday. It was a Saturday.
There's more people probably because you're commuting as well for,
Yeah,
the work
because you stop
government
in Baltimore and
Yes.
Providence.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And
Actually, when you ride around Baltimore, you see some of the most depraved area, like abandoned areas, like reminds me of The Wire.
yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I haven't done it in 10 years, but I used to do it quite a few, like from DC. I was several times in DC for
It
work.
made total sense for that trip.
And it's really nice. The only thing downside is the crime against humanity that Penn Station is. I mean, now they have done this expansion at the post office next, which I saw last time. I didn't go to the train, but I just went to see, which is more like it feels more like a nice station because the thing underground is like just a nightmare.
Penn Station is a
Yeah,
mess.
it's a nightmare. I say crime against humanity because if you look at the pictures of what it was before,
Oh, I know.
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's like here in London, the equivalent would be Euston
They're
Station.
they're doing exactly. They're
Right.
doing so much work around it, and you feel like you're coming into a construction area, but you don't have to faff with the TSA and then getting into LaGuardia or JFK and then trying to get into. You're right there. We were a block from our hotel.
That's great.
It was a great way to do it, and then
That's great.
I picked American to fly back from New York. We were there for a night because the timings worked out a little bit better, and I like American, and it was a chance to fly on a 777. Even though actually BA flew a 777, but the timings worked out, and so we took a taxi out to JFK in decent time because I wanted to experience T8
And the lounge.
for the first time. Yeah.
So you see, you're like me. That's why I was so early at Charles de Gaulle, because it was just for the lounge. As a new lounge, I want to see it. So I'm very curious about T8. I've never been to, I don't think I've ever been to T8, and especially the lounge as well. So tell us.
I did, obviously my first experience too, and you get out and there are a lot of airlines that operate out of there, almost all one world now, and there is a BA American section, and then there's like a business and first section, and all self-signed, and there's somebody there, much like the entrance to the first wing at T5,
Yeah.
who's checking. They're like, okay, well, you're going over there through that door, and then you go through this door opens automatically, and there are
There's lights and
just wave
music.
your hand, choir of angels singing. But when you get in, there's like 5 desks, but actual like work desks, not check-in desks. So there's somebody sat and 2 comfortable chairs for you to sit in.
I like that kind of concept.
And this guy comes up to me and says, from behind his desks, and says, "Come with me." And I was flying in basic economy,
But you were gold.
so I don't even get a bag for free. But I was gold, and so he says,
You're gonna regret that gold leaving.
"Well,
No, I know. I'm just saying that.
possibly."
No, but it's nice.
But I would have had the same experience with my silver card.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, didn't know that. Okay, good.
So he comes in and he's like, please sit down, and you want a glass of water or anything, or a bottle of water. And he's checking us in.
Feels like a hotel check-in.
It was like a hotel check, like the kind of a nice luxury resort hotel check-in.
Nice.
And he's tapping away, and he's like, it wants me to charge you for your checked bag. Solved.
Nice.
So he's like, we're not going to do that. And I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't see
That's
any
amazing.
like bag. Like, where do my bags? Do I take my bags? Like, there's nothing behind them. There's no mechanical element to any of this. It feels. And he's like, no, just leave them with me, and you'll see them at Heathrow, and he puts the things on and takes the bags away. And he said, and they have 3 lounges. And they're named after places that both London and New York have. So there's Soho, Greenwich,
Chelsea,
and Chelsea. And one of them, I think it's Chelsea, is the Concorde room.
Oh,
the equivalent of the Concorde room. So you've got to be first class or GGL or whatever.
Okay, wow.
But we went into the gold first class equivalent lounge, and you go back into the terminal because then you've got to go through security, but you go through the same security as the crew. So it was very quick. It was a BA crew in front of us, and then just me and Megan. And then you go up an elevator on one side of the terminal, and you have 2 doors, one for the business class lounge and one for the gold lounge. And you go in, and it felt like a very nice New York or London restaurant.
Oh,
so
I see.
Dark, but not too dark.
Yeah.
Well lit.
Not the seedy restaurant in actual
Not seedy or, what are you trying to hide kind of darkness. Big floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook a fairly active part of the airport, so you could see that. Wow. And then there was a very nice bar. It looked like an actual bar. Well staffed, well maintained, very well stocked. The bartender insisted that I try the reds before I picked one. He's like, "No, when you try these, make sure we get it right. They have very different flavors."
Wow.
There was a mixture of kind of the comfy armchair seats that you would expect, restaurant style dining because you can order at your table. There's also, and then kind of high top seats as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of. Sorry to interrupt your story, but I think if you look at, it seems to be a trend. All the very new, latest lounges and airline lounges are built like this, like having multiple options, like you say, high seats. Yeah. You can work from kind of a bar-like situation, or comfy seats, or more in between when you can eat as well. There's a small table in front of you. The one in Paris is very similar. Similar, not the same design, but you have a choice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and in the very back there were the more sort of recliner lounging chairs for those very long breaks. Wow. So there was the order at the table thing, standard QR code stuff, and they would bring it to you, and it was burgers and fish and chips and other various options.
No nacho cheese machine.
No nacho cheese machine. So they did lose 1 star for that, but they had a very nice looking, well stocked, fresh buffet.
Yeah,
of various bits of like very, very nice salad bar and selection, soft drinks, and I think there was a fridge full of different beers and sodas and sparkling waters and everything.
Nice.
And yeah, I was. It didn't feel huge. I mean, nothing compared to the first wing. Maybe half the size of it, if that.
Yeah, but then again, they have 3 next to each other, so maybe they balance.
Yeah.
They made their calculation, maybe, I don't know.
And I don't know how much traffic actually they get between them all, but it was the experience was very good. It was comfortable. It's definitely a lounge that I would look forward to going back to. The service was, or the people were reserved. There wasn't quite like a level of effusiveness. Quite casual, which is fine, but it was good. And I look forward to somehow. I'm going back to New York next month. So whether I fly on them, I don't know, but hopefully I'll get the opportunity to go back there.
When about are you going? In a part of March?
Almost exactly a month.
Okay.
St. Patrick's Day.
So it will be we'll do a recording just before you leave, maybe from Dubai, and then you'll have your New York again.
Yeah,
but you haven't chosen which one you're gonna fly with.
No, I haven't even thought about it yet. But I was impressed. I was impressed by the lounge and American. The flight was it was a 777-300, and we had initially booked the second row of economy. The seat between us was empty, but then it became very clear that the whole flight was really, really empty. And so I asked the one of the cabin crew, like, can we move? And they said, yeah. So I took a bulkhead seat of 3, and Megan took the row behind me, which has, I had only 2 seats. It was one of those weird anomalous ones. And then she had a row of 3. So she had like infinite legroom.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes.
Because there was no seat in front of her.
Yeah.
I went straight to sleep. She ate and said the food wasn't bad. The crew were actually, they were nice. They were really kind of friendly, and the both cabin crew were older men with deep Southern drawls, which is I just associate with hospitality.
Yeah, same.
And so it was lovely. It was a quick 6 hours 8 minutes across the Atlantic, and by the time we actually got off the plane in T3 and got through immigration, which was pretty busy, our bag was already on the carousel.
Good. Oh,
So-
that's a good point for...
Yeah.
Because I know I said it earlier in this episode, but that terminal looks even more dated now than it felt before for me for some reason.
I think the only thing it has going for it is it's physically very compact, so the bags don't actually have that far to travel compared to T5, which...
Yeah, feels, especially with the satellites. Yeah, you're right. Although sometimes at T3, when you go to these gates, where the name's 20 more at 30, you walk that long corridor, it seems forever. But yeah. No, okay, no, fair enough. No, it's not a bad terminal.
No. But yeah, so I know...
Actually, that's where I came back with Air France, because again, I said it's at T3, and I was very easy. No issue. I was out very quickly. Okay, I didn't have to wait for a bag, but I was out very quickly. Passport, so the e-gates and passport immigration were working fine, so I was in very quickly. So I cannot, I cannot complain, of course. But yeah, no, okay. So would it entice you to travel price considerations aside? The fact that this new T8 and the lounge, would it be something that would entice you?
Yeah, I mean, with BA and American both operating out of there, I think it won't be the last time I go there.
Yeah.
Irrespective of who I give my allegiance to going forward.
Maybe no one. Free agent forever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm silver with BA as of the end of next month. I'm already silver with Virgin, which is useless. It doesn't get me into anything anywhere, so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny your kind of check-in experience of the hotel-like experience. You said, I think it reminded me of. Virgin does it in their wing at T3. What's the name? You go up. I'm pretty sure JAL had that at Narita.
But even the Virgin thing is still, it's just a private check-in area with the same physical desks and everything like that.
There's JAL does that, and I try to remember. Is it Qatar that has something a bit similar, but not? I don't know. I don't even recall. Man, anyway, it's an interesting concept, though.
Yeah.
To have these. Sometimes a bit overkill, maybe, because you're like, well, I just want to check in and leave, and they're like, oh, do you want to see?
Shouldn't.
Like, okay, nice.
I think if you've already got your boarding pass and you're not checking any bags, you can just
avoid it. Okay.
Through. Yeah.
But it's nice. It's a nice touch, man.
Yeah, it really is.
We were just talking about that. The part of the experience that is expressed, and that's part of it. Actually, before we close the show, were you recognized by AA?
No, I'm not on board.
Okay.
Although, was I? I don't remember, to be honest with you. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and at least say
And you fell asleep very quickly as well, so maybe by that time...
So there was no opportunity. I was out. I was exhausted.
The head of cabin would have come to you. He's like, okay, he's asleep now. Yeah. Because I noticed something very interesting at Air France in these short flights is that when they were coming for the first round of drinks, which a lot of people were French, were all going for champagne. They went seemingly in the order of highest frequent flyers.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it was really random. I was like, why are they starting at 3F and then moving? And they were saying like a spiel. I kind of couldn't really overhear because of the noise of the aircraft. Didn't do that spiel for me because I don't have any status. But clearly, they probably say, okay, these are the people we need to recognize first. And then they kind of went, once they did their 3 that had this maybe platinum, maybe whatever, then they went to the other. It's just interesting.
So obvious.
Yeah, not very difficult, especially in a short haul when you have literally a small cabin of 5 rows. It's not that. There was even one guy that had, the escort. So he was coming from a car, came up on the bridge. The guy was our age. Funnily enough, that guy didn't have any miles, so she sold him the miles program. And I'm like, so you had a special car with a guy that held you until your seat,
but you're not getting any friggin' miles for it,
and you don't accrue the miles. You must be so wealthy that you don't give a shit.
You don't care.
Anyway. Any other things you?
No, that's it. I know we're.
Because I know we're over time, and I know that it's school holidays for you, so you probably want to go back to your kids, or maybe you don't. Actually, that's an excuse for 2 hours without them after nearly a week of school holidays. It gives you a little bit of a break. But let's play the NBA. So next flights. Do you have any before that New York thing? Do you have anything you think?
By design.
So next time will be me talking about. Emirates, which I'm flying on Monday. Excellent. I hope I should be able to release that episode before. I mean, I will. It's a commitment. Just have so much stuff today and tomorrow. Maybe I'll do that on Saturday. I'll see if I can find a time. Where is the music now? God damn it. Here. Can you hear? Yeah. And so there you go. What should we call this episode? JFK T8 or Charles de Gaulle T2?
Oh, Charles de Gaulle T2, since we both went there.
Okay, so maybe if you choose BAAA to go back to New York next month, that could be actually this time JFKT.
There you go.
Oh, there. Well, guys, have an enjoyable time. Please reach out to us if you find that lounge that Alex experienced really bad, or the one I experienced in Paris really bad. I don't think he will, because now he makes me want to go to T8. And spend all my miles to use. I need to go back to New York. If you disagree with anything, guys, tell us. Otherwise, just give us a nice review or nice feedback. Sorry if we don't always mention. And on that, Alex, happy flying.
Safe travels, guys.